Hi, I'm Levi, 36, divorced dad of 2 chaos gremlins, and last week my entire family tried to uninvite my children from Christmas so my brother's girlfriend could protect her aesthetic. And I didn't explode. I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I said 4 quiet words that detonated the entire family tree. I understand. And hung up. And that, apparently, was enough to send my parents, my brother, and the girlfriend to my doorstep the next morning like a beige-coated firing squad. But let me rewind about 12 hours, to the phone call that started this avalanche. It was a Tuesday night in December. The kids were finally down, Mia in her neon unicorn hoodie blanket, Theo asleep in dinosaur pajamas, drooling peacefully into my couch like a feral woodland creature. The microwave clock glowed 7:42 p.m. when Mom called. She had her hostess breathlessness voice on, the one she uses when she's already performed half the party in her head. "We're doing Christmas Eve at our house," she said. Then the tone softened into manipulative velvet. "But honey, your brother is bringing his new girlfriend to meet the family. She's very particular. Minimalist. They're making content. Your kids are loud, you understand?" I stared at the bookshelf behind her voice. At the construction paper chain Mia taped to it earlier, bright, uneven, imperfect, alive. I stared at the cocoa smear on Theo's sleeping cheek. And something in me just unclenched. "I understand," I said. Mom exhaled like she'd won. Then I hung up. And I didn't sleep. I scrolled through photos, years of Christmas mornings, messy and magical, wrapping paper stuck to socked feet, toys half assembled, toddlers screaming with joy, blurry candids of me pretending to know how to build Lego robots. I thought about my job, how my entire field is making things look good without lying. The difference between designing an image and erasing reality. And sometime around 2:30 a.m., I realized exactly what my family had asked me to do. Shrink my kids so Zach and his influencer Barbie could look cleaner online. By sunrise, Dad texted, "Don't take this personally." Right. Because nothing says, "I love you," like excluding your grandchildren from Christmas because they clash with a beige table's cape. But fine. I was calm. And very, very done. By noon, they were on my porch. No warning. Just the doorbell, winter breath, and a cluster of tense smiles. Mom looked like she'd been practicing disappointed matriarch in the mirror. Zach stood there in his entrepreneurial watch and sneaker cosplay. And the girlfriend, Brooke, stood half a step forward, perfect hair, perfect coat, phone in hand, and eyes scanning my house like she was measuring it for resale value. She glanced at the construction paper chain behind me and smiled the way people smile at roadkill. Then she said, "So, you're the one who keeps ruining the family brand." And I swear, I could hear a cosmic click inside me. This wasn't going to be a conversation. This was going to be a reckoning. Brooke's sentence hung in the air like the smell of burnt toast, sharp, sour, and somehow insulting to the house. I blinked once. Twice. Because surely no sane adult woman had just said family brand out loud on my porch at 11:12 a.m. on a Wednesday. But she had. And the 3 people behind her didn't even flinch. Mom pushed past her, hands clasped dramatically at her chest. "You made me feel terrible last night," she said, like I had run over her foot with my car. "I said 4 words," I reminded her. "That's the problem," Dad cut in. "You're always withholding. Family needs communication." Ah, yes. The man who once disappeared to a fishing cabin for 3 days without telling anyone about it lecturing me on communication. Zach adjusted his expensive watch, the one I'm 99% sure he bought with a buy now pay never plan. "Bro," he said, "it's one Christmas. We're trying to land a partnership." Brooke lined up a photographer. A stylist. The whole thing. Kid noise ruins content. Brooke nodded sympathetically, as if she was consoling a child who didn't understand Instagram. "You can drop the kids at their mom's," she said. "Just this once. It's my week." I said flatly. Be flexible, Levi, Mom pleaded. For once. I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Me. Flexible. The guy who paid their phone plans, streaming services, surprise tax bills, bonus groceries, emergency tires, Adobe subscriptions my brother, accidentally, charged to my card at 3 a.m., sure. I'm the rigid one. Brooke stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was about to offer me the secret to skincare. We're building something, you know? A cohesive feed. You're an art director, you get it. I looked her dead in the eye. My kids aren't a brand element, Zach scoffed. Mom rolled her eyes. Dad muttered something about me being dramatic. Then the real motive dropped, because it always does if you wait long enough. Mom inhaled. There's also a budget. And there it was. The truth finally crawled out. Hosting was expensive. Brooke's style table was expensive. The photographer was expensive. The candle brand Brooke was trying to impress with her minimalist holiday moment wanted content that wasn't ruined by my children existing. And they needed me. Not for company. Not for love. For money. Mom lowered her voice like she was sharing sad news from a doctor. 2,000 would take the pressure off. Food, florals, Dad added. Maybe a small stipend for the photographer. Brooke chimed in again, because the audition was apparently ongoing. We really want you there. Just you. Without the kids. At that exact second, behind me, I heard small bare feet on hardwood. Theo wandered into the doorway, hair sticking up like he'd been electrocuted, holding his stuffed triceratops by the horn. Pancakes, he announced. Mia's off-key humming drifted from the kitchen. My house was loud, chaotic, uncurated, and full. I turned my body so Theo wouldn't see their faces, the stiff smiles, the disapproval, the faint horror that his tiny, sticky-fingered self wasn't neutral-toned. Go sit, bud, I whispered. I'll make them. When he scampered off, I turned back to the porch council. Let me think, I said. Today would be best, Mom said sharply. We have deposits. Friends don't let friends miss opportunities, Zach added. Family, Dad corrected. Family, Zach echoed smugly, like he just invented the concept. I paused. Let the word rot in the air. Then I nodded slowly. Right, I said. Family. And I closed the door. I leaned my forehead against the wood. Listened to their muffled hissing outside. Listened to my kids laughing inside. Then my phone buzzed. A message from the group chat Mom renamed last year after I paid Dad's surprise tax bill. Family immediate. Mom, Levi, please don't be difficult. Dad, we need a decision by 3. Zach, Venmo is fine. Brooke sending inspo. 3 beige mood board squares dropped in. White tablecloth, white candles, pale pine cones that looked like they were stolen from a mausoleum. I stared at them. Then I opened my camera roll. The folder labeled receipts. Screenshots of years of accidental charges. Money borrowed. Gifts unpaid for. Adobe logins. Streaming profiles. Phone plan add-ons. Zach's entrepreneurial emergencies. I selected a neat grid of them and dropped it into the chat. Me, just a reminder. Mom responded in 8 seconds. Mom, tacky. Zach, we said we'd pay you back. Me, you also said that about the Shopify, the photo gear, the template bundle, the phone plan. Typing bubbles appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Finally, Brooke sent. Money as leverage over family is not the vibe. And that was the moment something in me finally clicked into place. Not anger. Clarity. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're instructions. The thing about clarity is it doesn't arrive politely. It kicks the door in, throws your emotional furniture around, and says, Look. Here's how it actually is. I stared at Brooke's message, the woman who had known my family for a grand total of 7 weeks, telling me what the vibe of family was. Then Mia yelled from the kitchen. Dad. Theo poured syrup in the dog bowl. And I swear, the universe itself whispered. Choose them. I typed slowly, deliberately. Me, I'm not paying for a photographer to capture my kid's absence. Silence. Then my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring out. She texted instead. Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. Be an adult. I exhaled. Leaned against the counter. Looked at the paper chain Mia had draped over the bookshelf like it was priceless art. Maybe it was. I typed. Me, I am being an adult. Here's what's changing. I stood straighter. My voice in my own head was calm. Cold. Clear. The exact opposite of how they trained me to be. I wrote. I'm removing you from my phone plan at the end of the billing cycle. I'll send the transfer pin. I'm changing my Adobe password. Zach, stop using my license. I'm signing everyone out of streaming accounts today. You can set up your own. I won't fund events I or my kids are uninvited from. If you ever add charges to my business card again, I file a fraud report. Then I hit send. No emojis. No softening. Just truth. Mom replied instantly. Mom, you're making this hostile. Your children will hear about this. I looked at Mia's face, bright, sugared, safe, and felt something steady settle in my chest. Me, no. They'll hear that I protected them. Dad texted. Dad, we just want things to go smoothly. You're creating problems. I typed. Me, I'm ending them. But before I could even put my phone down, the doorbell rang again. I opened it. Same 4 faces. But this time they weren't confident. They looked cornered. Mom began talking immediately, voice trembling with a fury she was trying to disguise as pain. You embarrassed us in the group chat, she said. You made us look like parasites. I didn't blink. Then stop behaving like parasites. Dad stepped forward, puffing out his chest like a mall cop. Watch your tone, he barked. No, I said calmly. You watch yours. In my house. Brooke crossed her arms in a perfectly symmetrical way, like she was posing even in conflict. This is unhinged, she said. Then stop hinging on me. Zach scoffed loudly. You'd blow up Christmas over a vibe? I stepped onto the porch fully, closing the distance. You blew it up when you told me my kids were bad for your image. Mom's eyes filled instantly, the fast, dramatic tears she used whenever she wanted to reset the narrative. You're being cruel, she whispered. I shook my head. No. I'm being clear. Dad reached for the lowest tool in his belt, guilt. Son. Think of the bigger picture. I nodded. I am. And the bigger picture is this. If you shut my kids out, you shut me out. If you want a curated Christmas, you can have it, without my money, without my labor, without my presence. Brooke opened her mouth. I raised a hand. No more negotiations. No more budget meetings disguised as family conversations. They stared at me like I'd spoken a language they didn't know. Which I guess I had. Boundaries. Then I stepped back inside. And I closed the door. Soft. Final. On the other side, I heard them sputtering. Trying to regroup. Trying to find the old script where they guilt, I cave, and we proceed like normal. But scripts only work when the actor plays along. Inside, the house was warm. Messy. Loud. More alive than anything they'd planned. Theo handed me a pancake he'd shaped using only chaos and hope. Mia was humming again. And I realized. This is the perfect image. Not beige. Not curated. Not sanitized. Just real. My phone buzzed one more time. Zach. Bro, this is why no one ever counts on you. I smiled. Because finally, that was true. The house was quiet for exactly 8 minutes. 8. That's how long it took before the group chat lit up again like a slot machine. Mom, Levi, you're not being fair. Dad, We need to resolve this today. Zach, pay the $18.50 and we'll call it even. Brooke, can we please be adults? I laughed so hard I had to put the phone down before I threw it into the pancake batter. But the universe wasn't done testing me. At 12:17 p.m., Dad texted. Dad, phones aren't working. Is this you? Except I hadn't removed them yet. And that's when I got suspicious. I logged into the account. And there it was. A shiny new iPhone Pro Max, ordered at 3:04 a.m., set to ship to, you guessed it, Zach's apartment. The upgrade had auto-transferred Mom's SIM, which deactivated her phone. The audacity of this man to commit phone fraud before breakfast was honestly artful. I called the provider, cancelled the order, flagged the account for owner-only changes, and hung up. Then I texted the group chat a screenshot. Me, nice try. Zach, wow. Dad, petty. Me, legal. I barely had time to finish rinsing the mixing bowl before Adobe emailed me. New sign-in detected, Zach's city. Of course. Of course, he'd immediately tried to log into my Creative Cloud like a raccoon checking if the trash can still opens. I hit sign out of all devices so fast I nearly sprained a finger. Changed the password. Enabled physical 2FA. Then texted him privately. Me, if you need design software, buy it. He responded with a vomiting emoji. Which, weirdly, was the most honest communication he'd ever sent. By late afternoon, my family's group chat was a battlefield of half-formed insults and financial manipulation attempts. Mom, we're over budget because of you. Dad, it's childish to weaponize money. Zach, you're abandoning your family. Brooke, we're just trying to build something meaningful. I ignored them. I made hot chocolate with too many marshmallows. I let the kids make a glitter mess that would haunt me until Easter. I turned on a claymation Christmas special from the 70s, the one where all the characters look mildly concussed. My house was loud, and sticky, and perfect. At 5 p.m., the doorbell rang again. I expected the whole squad. Instead, it was just Brooke. No phone in her hand for once. No curated smile. Just a beige coat, cold wind behind her, and a look that said I lost control of the situation and do not know how to proceed. I don't want a scene, she said. Then stop showing up at my door. She glanced past me into the living room, where Mia and Theo were dancing violently to Jingle Bell Rock. Her face twitched. Like joy physically pained her. Look, she said. I know you're protective, but you're tanking something big. A brand offered us product for the dinner. There it is, I said. The real Christmas spirit. She stiffened. They like clean lines. Sticky hands don't fit. They're not sticky hands, I said. They're my children. She exhaled dramatically, one of those sighs meant to show you how burdensome your boundaries are. I panicked, she admitted. I shouldn't have said what I said earlier. I raised an eyebrow. Which part? That my kids ruin the family brand? Or that I should abandon them for your sponsored content? Her face went pale. I didn't know about the money asks. She murmured. That's not my lane. Oh, it will be, I said, if you stay with them long enough. Something flickered in her expression. Not remorse. Recognition. She looked around my home one more time, at the paper chain, at the crayons everywhere, at the chaos she tried to crop out of existence. You could style the kid day, she offered weakly. After New Year's. We already did. Mia ran by wearing 3 patterns and a tiara. Theo followed, roaring like a dinosaur. Brooke forced a swallow. We won't ask you for anything else, she said. I know, I replied. Because they wouldn't get the chance. She left without another word. And for the first time all day, the porch felt quiet. Calm. Mine. That night, while I was tucking Mia into bed, she asked. Grandma said we're a lot? Did we do something wrong? My jaw clenched so hard I saw stars. I sat on the floor so we were eye level. You were loud, I said softly. And silly. And brilliant. And not for anyone's brand. She blinked, processing. Someone made a choice that wasn't kind, I added. That choice is not your fault. Theo crawled across the rug like a confused iguana and climbed onto my lap. We sat there, a little heap of humans, and I felt something shift in my chest. A vow. A promise. A steel-strong line in the sand. The second someone makes my kids feel like they're too much, they lose access to us. Forever. And that's when the real fallout began. The fallout hit exactly the way storms do in movies, all at once, loud, and with someone screaming about insurance. It started the next morning. 7:02 a.m. My parents called. Not to apologize. Not to reflect. But because their credit card for the Christmas dinner had been declined. Mom, we had to put the catering on our card because you refused to help. Dad, the bank flagged it. We're over the limit. Ah. Consequences. The holiday gift that keeps on giving. I'm sorry you planned something you couldn't afford, I said. You'll reimburse us for the difference, Mom said like she was ordering takeout. No, I said. There was a silence, the kind where you can hear someone's soul inflate like a pufferfish. Mom inhaled sharply. Your father is very disappointed. Dad, your brother stepped up. He covered the photographer. At that exact moment, Zach's text came in. Pay now request, $1,850. Memo, Christmas team support, your share. I snorted. Out loud. I'm not joining your family co-op, I said. Dad's voice dropped low, the guilt-trip bass line he thinks makes him sound wise. You'll regret alienating your family. No, I said. I'll regret the years I spent financing one. Click. They hung up. My phone didn't stop buzzing all morning. Mom's friend, the one built entirely of gossip and Pilates, posted a vague Facebook status about ungrateful children abandoning their elders. A cousin DM'd me. Zach said you're unstable? Are you okay? Also, can he borrow your camera again? I sent her a single skull emoji. Because subtlety is for people with patience. By early afternoon, something unexpected happened. A knock at my door. Not my parents. Not Zach. Not Brooke. Aunt Linda. The family's one honest woman. The quiet rebel. The one who never asks for anything but brings cookies anyway. She handed me a bag of gingerbread and a look that said she'd heard everything. I told your mother she was out of line, Linda said, already kicking off her boots. She said you were cruel. I said you were right. I nearly cried on the spot. She stayed an hour. She listened. She didn't try to fix things or explain away anyone's behavior. Before leaving, she hugged me, tight, and whispered, You're breaking a cycle whether they see it or not. And then she handed the kids glow sticks. A legend. After she left, I stood on the porch for a long minute, breathing cold air, realizing something I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't alone. There were people in this family with working frontal lobes. The next few days were a clean-up operation. Literal and metaphorical. I moved my business account to a new bank. Closed the credit card Zach had somehow memorized. Put a freeze on all my credit. Signed out of every device. I removed my parents from my phone plan and texted them the transfer pin like I'd promised. Mom, we can't figure this out. Me, here are the steps. Dad, we're old. Me, you're capable. They did not enjoy that sentence. I gathered everything they had borrowed, but actually just annexed. The spare iPad. The DSLR I hadn't seen in a year. The ring light Brooke left after brunch. The tripod Zach swore he returned. I packed it all into a trash bag, drove to their house, and left it on the porch with a note. Returning your things. Please return my peace. A neighbor waved. Merry Christmas! Working on it, I said. And honestly, I was. That night, after the kids fell asleep tangled together like two small octopi, I opened my laptop. created a new folder. Named it simply Evidence. Not to send. Not to weaponize. Just to see the truth in one place, without their spin. Receipts. Screenshots. Charges. Dates. The $218 template bundle. The 3AM iPhone upgrade. The payment request. And the message that started all of it. Your kids ruined the perfect image. I closed the folder and sat there in the dim kitchen light. I wasn't imagining any of it. I wasn't overreacting. This was a pattern. A history. A story I finally stopped playing the villain in. The next morning, Christmas morning, the kids woke me at 6:03 a.m., shouting, "Snow!" It was barely a dusting, more like the sky sneezed. But they ran outside in pajamas, boots half on, faces bright. Theo licked a snowflake off the mailbox. "Tastes minty," he said. It didn't. But I didn't correct him. We made cinnamon rolls. We opened presents slow. We didn't take a single, perfect image photo. It was the real thing. Warm. Messy. Ours. Around noon, a final text came from Brooke. For the record, I didn't know about the money asks. I'm sorry about what I said. I panicked about fitting in, not about your kids. I'm rethinking some things. I typed 3 drafts. Deleted all of them. Finally sent. Good. Because sometimes that's all that needs to be said. And sometimes that's the start of a whole new story. January is always gray where we live. The kind of gray that makes even the sidewalks look tired. But this January felt lighter. I'd cut off the pipelines. I'd closed the loopholes. I'd reset my family's access to me like a password that finally expired. And in the quiet that followed, I realized something I didn't expect. I wasn't waiting for them anymore. Not their approval. Not their gratitude. Not their next crisis. Just living. Mom tried again, of course. 3 times. Each message sounded like a corporate memo pretending to be emotional. Sunday dinner to talk this out. Your father misses you. We need to set expectations moving forward. It felt less like family and more like I'm boarding for a job I didn't apply for. I answered once. When you're ready to apologize to my kids for making them feel like a problem, we can talk. Not before. Silence. Frosty, offended silence. In the meantime, Zach posted a carousel from their influencer church Christmas dinner. White candles. White tablecloth. Pine cones bleached to the color of forgotten bones. His caption. Grinding with my day one. Not pictured, the catering invoice they couldn't pay. Not pictured, the empty spots at the table where my kids should have been. A cousin DM'd me the screenshots because of course she did. She also added, Brooke looks miserable, by the way. I shrugged. Not my problem. I'm not the beige whisperer. 2 weeks later came another text from Zach. Brooke and I are taking a break. You happy? I stared at it until the letters blurred, then set my phone down and built a Lego spaceship with Theo that looked like a toaster with wings. No, I wasn't happy. But I also wasn't responsible. For the first time in years, their chaos wasn't my chore. Work shifted too. I stopped staying late fixing everyone else's files. I trained my junior designer instead of quietly doing her job for her. When a project manager tried to turn a personal preference into a deadlines wrapped in panic moment, I said, Not urgent. We'll do it next sprint. My boss stared at me like I'd just grown a third eye. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. And I meant it. Boundaries at home, recalibrate everything. Even in places you didn't know were crooked. And then came the question I knew would eventually arrive. It was bedtime. Mia was already tucked in, hair static fried, cheeks flushed from laughing too hard at a cartoon snowman. Daddy, she whispered, are we going to Grandma's again? Her voice was half brave, half worried. 7 years old and already learning what it feels like to be too much for someone else's comfort. We can. I said. If Grandma wants to apologize. Will she? I don't know, I said honestly. People surprise you. She nodded like this was philosophy. Theo jumped onto the bed like a koala falling from orbit. Bedtime became a human sandwich. A few days later, Aunt Linda texted. Cocoa at my place? No agenda. Just warmth. We went. Her house was mismatched mugs, a puzzle missing 4 pieces, a dog that shed enough to knit a second dog. It felt safe. When we left, the kids sang an off-key mashup of 3 songs at once, and for once, my chest didn't feel tight. I drove home thinking, maybe I'm not losing a family. Maybe I'm curating one. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I did something small and huge. I printed a list. Just 4 lines. And I taped it inside the cabinet where we keep the bowls, the cabinet I open every single morning. It read, I don't pay to be treated badly. My kids are not negotiable. No is a complete sentence. Family is a verb. And every morning, I open that cabinet and breathe a little easier. Because boundaries stop being boundaries when they're just the truth. 2 weeks later, the text came from Dad. Unexpected. Short. Almost human. Your mother wants to try again. Sunday. Bring the kids. I exhaled slowly. Then typed. We'll come for an hour. If anyone mentions image or money, we leave. Dad responded. Fine. No emoji. Which for him is basically emotional nudity. And so, the reconnection began, awkward, brief, with a timer running in my head. Mom had clearly practiced her apology in the mirror. It came out stiff but real enough. She knelt down, actually bent her knees, to Mia and Theo and said, I made a mistake. Not. If. Not. But. Just the sentence. My kids forgave her instantly. Because they're kids and they forgive like it's breathing. Me? My shoulders lowered by about an inch. Zach didn't show. Mom said he was busy. I did not ask at what, the mall, the mirror, a pity party, who knows. We stayed exactly 1 hour and left at minute 59, because promises to yourself are still promises. That night, Mia asked, What's the moral of Christmas this year? She asks that about everything, like life is a series of fables and I'm supposed to be the wise forest owl. I tucked her in, thought about beige tables, capes and banana dinosaurs and glow sticks and paper chains. Then said, The moral is that love isn't a filter. It's messy and loud, and it doesn't ask you to shrink. And if someone says you have to make yourself smaller to fit in their picture, you get a new frame. She nodded. Obviously. And we're keeping our paper chain up until March. She said. Deal. I said. I turned off the light. The house hummed, not perfect, but ours. I stood in the doorway a moment longer, then went to the kitchen, opened the cabinet with the bowls, and read the list again. Not because I needed reminding. Because I liked the person who wrote it. Peace is never loud. It doesn't throw a parade. It just sits on your couch one morning while you're drinking bad coffee and quietly says, Hey, you're doing better than you think. That was January. Then February arrived, cold, sharp, and carrying the kind of plot twist only my family can produce. It started with a message from an unknown number. A photo popped up first. At first I thought it was spam, some random stock image of a beige living room with a lone candle burning on a pristine table. Then I zoomed in. It wasn't stock. It was my parents' house. And the candle setup looked familiar. The caption under it read, I guess we're doing white on white for everything now. It was from my cousin Aaron, the one who quietly sees everything and pretends to see nothing. Buckle up, she texted. There's drama. I didn't respond. I've learned that engaging with the family grapevine is like tugging on a live wire. But 5 minutes later, my phone blew up anyway. First text from Mom. We're having a family brunch Sunday. You're invited. Second text from Dad. Your brother wants to talk. Third text from Aunt Linda. Brace yourself. And then, the inevitable, a message from Zach. Just one line. Brooke moved out. Oh boy. I sat down. Because when someone leads with a bomb, they're usually standing behind another one. Zach followed up with, She says the family is toxic. Meaning you. She says you influenced her. I blinked. I influenced her? From across a doorway? In December? While making pancakes? Before I could even type a response, another message came. She also told Mom she's done making content with people who care more about aesthetics than decency. Mom must have loved that. Then, you ruined Christmas and my relationship. Ah. There it is. The real injury, his curated life fell apart, so obviously, I was the architect of doom. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words. But because I've learned. People in freefall will grab the closest person to blame. And sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is step out of their reach. Sunday brunch. I almost didn't go. But the kids wanted to see Grandma, and I wanted to see if Mom's apology stuck longer than a snowflake. We walked in with a 2-hour plan. Boundaries, not armor. Mom had made waffles. Real ones. Not beige. She hugged the kids, awkward but warm, and she didn't say a word about image or outfits. Progress. Dad offered me coffee with a grunt that translated loosely to, I don't know how to talk about feelings, but I am trying to not be awful. Then Zach arrived. Late. Red-eyed. No Brooke. He took one look at me and exhaled like I'd personally stolen Christmas, his girlfriend, and 3 years of his life savings. You happy? He asked. I took a slow breath. No, I said. But I'm also not responsible for the choices you made. He scoffed. She left because she said the family was a lot. Maybe listen to that, I said. He didn't like that answer. But then something unexpected happened. Mom put down her fork and said, Zach, sweetheart, we may have asked too much of Levi. For a long time. Dad nodded. Actually nodded. In public. In daylight. Zach stared at them like someone had swapped his parents with slightly improved clones. And, Mom added, I'm sorry for how we handled Christmas. Truly sorry. It wasn't perfect. It was shaky and late, and wrapped in 10 layers of family performance. But it was real. Zach swallowed. Looked down. Then said quietly, She was right about some things. Brooke. She said we treat Levi like a resource. Mom winced. We're trying to change, Dad said. I didn't speak, because sometimes change needs silence to land. We stayed exactly 2 hours. The kids ate 3 waffles each. Mom sent us home with leftovers she didn't photograph first. When we walked out, Zach touched my arm. Not aggressively. Just enough to say, I don't know how to do this. Neither did I said. You start small. He nodded once, like a man holding a very fragile truth. We drove home in a quiet that felt clean. Not fully healed. Not instantly fixed. But clean. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I opened the cabinet with the bowls. Read the list again. For the first time, it didn't feel like armor. It felt like guidance. A reminder that I didn't burn a bridge. I fenced off a cliff. And the people who actually wanted to cross safely would find the gate. You always think the last part of a story is supposed to feel cinematic. A big sweeping score. A moment where every loose thread ties itself into a bow. But real life doesn't care about bows. Real life gives you quiet Tuesdays. Burnt toast. Kids who think pajamas are acceptable daywear. A sense of peace so ordinary it almost feels suspicious. And honestly, that's better. It began with a knock. Not dramatic. Not frantic. Just a soft, hesitant tap. I opened the door expecting a package. Instead it was my mother. No makeup. No perfect blowout. Just a woman holding a Tupperware of soup like a peace offering from a very tired kingdom. I made too much, she said. Mom never makes too much. She makes exactly enough, and then complains about leftovers. I stepped aside. She entered slowly, like she was moving through someone else's house. Mia and Theo were on the rug building a Lego zoo that looked like the animals survived a meteor strike. Mom watched them for a long second. Then she said softly, "I was wrong." Not dramatic. Not tearful. Just truth. I was wrong about the Christmas thing. And about the other things. The expectations. The taking. A breath. We didn't see what we were doing to you because you were always the one who handled things. I nodded. I know. Dad arrived 10 minutes later, holding a toolbox. Your porch light is flickering, he said. It was flickering last time. I figured I'd fix it. It was the closest he'd ever come to saying I'm trying because I care. He fixed the light. Then tightened a loose hinge. Then replaced a stripped screw in the kid's bookshelf. Small things. But small things are the atoms of trust. Zach showed up the following week. Hair messy. Wearing a hoodie instead of the usual entrepreneur uniform. He sat on my couch like he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch the furniture. She left. He said quietly. Brooke. She said I treated relationships like branding. He laughed brittle. She also said, you don't do that. I didn't have a grand monologue. I just said. She wasn't wrong. He nodded once. Then again. Like absorbing a slow truth. I want to do better, he said. But I don't know how. I pointed to the cabinet with the bowls. Start there. He opened it. Read the list. My list. He swallowed. That's good, he whispered. That's really good. Then, this was the miracle. He didn't ask for money. Didn't ask for favors. Didn't ask me to fix his life. He just sat with me. In silence. Two grown men on a couch, learning that conversations don't need invoices attached. Spring came. The snow melted. The paper chain remained, faded, drooping, but still up because Mia insists. It holds the house together. We started doing Sunday dinners again. Not weekly. Not mandatory. Just when it felt right. Mom practiced not giving opinions. Dad practiced listening with his eyebrows not knit in judgment. Zach practiced showing up without a brand pitch. Sometimes they slipped. Old habits die loudly. But every time they started drifting toward entitlement, or image or manipulation, I did something new. I stood up. I'm not doing that, I'd say calmly. And they backed off. Not because they feared me, but because they finally understood. The cost of access is respect. One night, Mia asked me again, this time as I tucked her in. Daddy? What's the moral of everything that happened? I thought about the Christmas fiasco. The beige aesthetic war. The money drains. The quiet rebuild. Boundaries taped inside kitchen cabinets. Soup on the doorstep. A fixed porch light. An hour brunch that didn't end in tears. I smiled. The moral, I said, is this. If someone makes you feel small so they can look big, that's not love. If someone only wants the perfect parts of you, that's not love. Real love makes room. It lets you be loud. Messy. Human. She nodded, satisfied. And the other moral? She asked. What other moral? That we're keeping the paper chain up until next Christmas. I laughed. Deal. After they fell asleep, I opened the kitchen cabinet and read the list again. Not because I needed it, but because I was proud of the man who wrote it. The man who finally realized. You don't fix a family by breaking yourself. You fix a family by refusing to be broken anymore. And for the first time in my life, I knew this story wasn't written for a perfect image. It was written for the truth. Messy. Loud. Human. Mine.